I have something here. Does it work? I guess that. Aha! Right, we're on. Last year I was here giving out one of our awards that we've sponsored for the last 5 years, which is our Learning for Wellbeing Award, which we'll talk about later. And I talked about this being the centenary year for the WEA in the East of England, and that we'd like to try and do something a bit special this year to commemorate that and link that in with Adult Learners Week. So that's what we're doing today, hopefully. Although I know the morning session here really is about our learners, and it is about the value of learning for them, but also that's about the value of learning for us. Roy asked me to do something about the history of the WEA, because although we've been going for over 100 years, I understand some people don't know anything about us. It was established in 1903, so it's been going 110 years, to give working class people access to university lecturers. 100 years ago, the Eastern District, as it was then, was established. And I've got there that's covering the 6 counties, as it does now, but actually we're a bit bigger. We have Lincolnshire as well, or part of Lincolnshire, and Northamptonshire, before they went somewhere else. East Midlands, I think. I'm not quite sure where that is. So we're linking with the Adult Learners Week today, and this afternoon we're going to have some of our own awards really about people, and people in the WEA who have helped develop learning in the East of England for the last 100 years. Any of you who are going to that, please register at lunchtime and pick up your own packs there. WEA, it's a charity. It's a very large national charity, which people probably don't realise. Also, it's a voluntary organisation that's led and run by its members, which are its students. And courses are chosen by the students themselves. And that's been going on for the last 110 years. This is one of the first meetings that I held in the new district, 1913, which was a good year obviously to start. If they knew the war was going to happen in a year's time, I wonder whether they'd have bothered. Especially as that first lecture, public lecture, was about education and democracy. I don't think it's really changed since. And pretty quickly we had the First World War. I think really an interesting time for us because we had a lot of strong women that came to the fore within the WEA. And I don't know if that was because of the First World War or whether it was because of the suffragette movement. And in fact our first, I think it was the second chair of the district was a person called Clara Rackman, who people may know as a very strong suffragette. Classes have continued during the war, even though it only going on a year. And quite often they were based on the tutorial class system, which at that time was a 3-year programme that adults went into. I think by that time we were talking about being the People's University. And so we had to start having some organisers and people to arrange these courses. So the first organiser in the Eastern District was a woman called Sophie Green, who actually was employed with the organisation until 1939. Initial funding, we didn't have a lot, but people were generous. People gave money, donated money from the universities in Cambridge to the district. Finally we did get some government money. And nowadays, today, we are what's called a specially designated institution. We are the only one in England that actually is funded centrally for providing learning for adults across the whole of England. Early programme in Bedford. Thought that was quite interesting. It talks about, of course, about how we are governed. The new Europe, problems of the modern world. Mid-1920s, but do you think we could run them again? I just wanted to go through a couple of examples of some of the things that we've done over the period of time, rather than big potted history. But very early on, we were very much involved with trade unions, but actually it was workplace learning. before we even know workplace learning now. And if you think about trying to get adult learning into small and medium enterprises now, we were doing it back at the start. Wireless broadcast in the 1920s. We had listening in groups in Cambridge, where people would listen to the programme on there and then get together and talk about it and discuss it. What a good idea! Maybe we can use the internet for that. Prison education. 1913, we were doing prison education in the county jails. 60s and 70s, we've got a tutor there called Jack Nobbs who was doing courses in Lowestoft. In prisons, courses are planned in exactly the same way. Democratically. Students decide what they want to learn. Of course, we had the Second World War. That caused a problem. All our tutors went off to war. Well, we solved that problem by employing female graduates. 15 of them. I think they were called the Sabine Women by the district secretary. Then the Second World War was quite interesting because we were interested in democracy and involvement. 56 WEA activists became MPs and hundreds of councillors at the time. After the Second World War, we had to retrain the armed forces, so we were very involved with that, and also about building this new Britain, post-war reconstruction. Maybe we need to be doing some post-2000 reconstruction. Developments after the war, flexibility, doing different things, changing. Well, this was interesting. I'm a historian, by the way, so I found it really interesting. The brain train. What a good idea that was. We had courses that happened from people going into London on the trains. Didn't last very long. What if we could do it now? I still think people were probably too worried about actually finding their seats and losing their coats and bags, as I experienced last week myself. So the big question for us, though, is there a role for the WEA now? We do value adult education. We care about that completely, and part of what we do is not just delivering, but we're championing adult learning. I think we're adapting and we're changing all the time. We care about adult learning because it affects individuals, it affects families, and it affects communities. And I'm just wondering about how many children would really be engaged with learning today if it wasn't because their parents are engaged or have engaged with learning. So it does have a fall off, doesn't it? In fact, one of my organisers talked to me the other day about cancelling a course. I'm a bit concerned about it because it was a science course, and we don't have many of them. And what we were concerned about is how would the children be able to do their science homework if their grandparents haven't been on a science course? My concern was, actually, if we don't run the science course, will we have any scientists in the future? I think it all does affect everything else. So, where are we going? We're actually basing our provision now. No, he's not. Oh, yes, he is. So, we're refocusing our provision for this next year into 4 themes. Community engagement. That sounds reasonable. That sounds a bit like big society to me. Cultural education, because really cultural education is important. How many of us have actually done things that we didn't actually want to do and actually it's turned on to something else? I can remember at university having to do modern art. Who wants to do modern art? I had to do it as a module. Actually, I've got to say, I still don't like Van Gogh's Sunflowers. But I can't put a value on the trip to the Musée d'Orsay and seeing Degas ballerinas and also Monet's lily ponds. So, things do change, don't they? What are we doing now? Well, we're doing things with libraries. We're doing an ESOL course with Unite. We're developing that. We're developing different types of employment work with job centres. We're looking at Heritage Lottery Fund and how we can do community projects with the NEM and NAM project. And also we're looking at open university and learning groups. SOGs, as I think they were called, self-organised groups a while ago, looking at how we can develop that. Going back to the prison service, we're doing understanding equality and diversity with Hertfordshire Prison Probation Service, which is working on. Should we be using technology? I'm very concerned about that. What we like is group learning and interaction with tutors. Maybe it works, and it has worked for us, and maybe it isn't the UK, maybe it is the world. The only trouble is we've got WEAs in 50 odd countries, so they may be a bit upset. I was just talking about education trends. We've got those, we've been involved with those for 100 years. Big society, community engagement, equality, that's what we're established for. Employability. Localism. I think we have a bit of a dilemma. We are a national organisation, but we need to meet with local needs, and that doesn't always work. Our values: being democratic, equal, inclusive, accessible, and open to everybody. It is about valuing adult learning. 25 years ago, we produced that document about the history of our organisation in East England. It says adult education and social purpose. I actually say probably adult education for social purpose. I believe adult education is social purpose. If we haven't got an educated group of adults, then they can't make decisions. And they need to do that to start voting. We need to maybe go back to our roots, and that's what we're talking about social purpose. We're looking at education for society, where people are always questioning, thinking critically, and that should be for all learning, for all adults, because with that, that's where the adult learning real value is, because it makes a good society, a better society for everyone.